Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a mobile space station, a ship factory that you can take pretty much anywhere and build all the ships you want? Well, that's exactly what's available in the latest update to Sins of the Solar Empire 2. It's called Reinforcements and it released last month. So I thought I'd come back and have another look at Sins and have a bit of a playthrough from start to finish of a session. Now, what I like about this game is you can set it to be as difficult or as easy as you like. This time I wanted to make the settings so I could go full-on Zerg mode, build a massive fleet of ships and try and swarm the enemy, so that is the objective here. Now this video is sponsored by StarDock, my thanks to them for that. Please do check out the links in the video description for everything you need to know. So then, right here, just coming out of my Titan Foundry is my brand new ship. It's a command vessel. This is the new ship. It's absolutely massive in scope. Pretty much comparable to the Titans that already exist in the game, at least in terms of size. But this vessel serves a very different function to the Titans. This one's called the Takatarian Command Fortress, and it's worth pointing out that each sub-faction within the game has a part of the new DLC called Reinforcements as its own command class ship, like this one, but their own unique variation, each quite different in appearance. And to all intents and purposes, it is a mobile space station. It's also a fleet yard as well. It will construct other ships for you en route, and you can have these constructed actually out there in the field. The ships you'll use this for the most are frigates and cruisers. It can't, unfortunately, construct battleships, but that does make sense as battleships are pretty large, obviously too large for this. So we're going to get back to what this is all about further into the video. For now, we're going to work through the beginnings of the game and get right up to this point and then beyond and see if we can actually take down the enemy. Another thing I wanted to mention very briefly here about the Reinforcements DLC is there's new factional victory conditions. You've got the Visari, one called the Departure, which is where you build a massive Visari command ship and then escape the sector through a star. Another one is the Advent mass conversion. So here you use your command ship Dreadnoughts to transform entire star systems into loyal territory in massive sweeping waves. The third new victory condition is the Trader Emergency Coalition and the Super Novolith Offensive. So here you construct the ultimate Novolith cannon that's capable of obliterating planets to force peace through sheer destructive power. And that bit of information is available directly from the Steam page. So this is my home world right at the start. That name was actually a bit odd there, wasn't it? Iduna. Okay, so I'm playing as the Tech, or the TEC, otherwise known as the Tech Enclave. There's two Tech factions within the game. You've got the Tech Enclave and the Tech Primacy, but I always really do enjoy playing the Tech Enclave, so that's what we're going to do here as well. First things first, we need to get some civilian structures around the planet. These take the form of civilian stations as well as military bases, and these essentially allow us to upgrade our capacity as an empire. It will allow us to have better civilian research as well as ultimately better military research. Military research is essential not just for weapons and different types of ships, but also of course our fleet capacity. If we don't research, we're only bound to have a very small fleet, and as soon as I really want to go all out on Zerg on this, we're going to need a lot of capacity there. Now when you start the game, you always get a free capital ship as well, and you can choose from any one of these 5 capital ships. They all serve very different functions. This one is the battleship. I think it's a good all-rounder to start off with, as it's very heavy duty when it comes to combat. So we're going to get that capital ship built and then build a load of frigates here which can escort the capital ship. And we'll go out and take our first other planetary system, our second planet. We've already got our capital world here, but we're going to need to head out and gather a few more. And let's put some upgrade abilities on our battleship whilst we're at it. I think that one looks like a good one. So here you'll be able to see our colonized planets. Right now it's just this one planet, but we're going to rectify that very shortly. And with that in mind, it makes sense to have a colonizing ship as well, doesn't it? Because when we take the next planet, we're going to be able to need to colonize it. So let's take a step back, zoom right out here, and take a look at the systems. Well, this star system. We've got 3 other planets here, well, 3 planets in total. This looks to be a lava world. I think there was a frozen world off to the right there. And then we've got 2 big asteroids. Yeah, that's a frozen world. So we're going to need to do some research there to be able to hold both of those. You've got all sorts of different civilian research here. These are all very beneficial, like this asteroid mercantile mandate. I'm going to put that on research because we'll want that later. But the main thing here is we want volcanic colonization, so we can colonize that planet we just saw, as well as the icy planet colonization as well. There's a load of other different worlds, primordial worlds and things like that we can also research in case we come across those. So this planet is being held by an independent faction. We know that because they're coloured white or grey. And we're going to send our fleet out over there and get ready to take that. I'm going to put a bit more capacity over here for our eventual continuation of research. So you can see my capital ship is now on the way. It's arrived around this lava world, and any moment now those hostile ships, or they're probably going to turn hostile any minute once they realise while I'm here or why I'm here. Here they come. So another thing I like about this is the fact you can zoom right out and get what, to all intents and purposes, is a tactical overlay. You can zoom right in and get real up close and personal with the actual combat. Now, my frigates were a little bit slow off the bat there. The capital ship arrived first, but you can see the frigates are now holding back. What I tend to like to do is focus all my fire, at least at this stage in the game, focus all my fire on a single target. That way you can destroy it and eliminate the targets very, very quickly, and then move on to the other targets and to go through each target one by one. Of course, if you leave the ships to it, they will eventually, well, they may win, they may lose, but I do like to micromanage in the very, very early stages just to make sure we get where we want to go. This one's trying to run away, but we're going to prevent that. Send all our fire over there, and they are now gone. So, relatively easy going here. We're making short work of all of these. A heavy cruiser here we're going to also take down. The next step in the plan, once we've got this, I guess we've got 3, maybe 4 stages to this overall battle plan. The first is just to get a small little fleet together, like we have right here, take the neighbouring star, or the neighbouring planet rather, and then expand to the rest of this star system. We've got another planet after this one, the icy world, and then 2 asteroids. We want to colonise all of that. That will mark the first stage complete. Then we'll move on to stage 2, which is building up a big fleet, a medium-sized fleet, before moving on to the next star system. We'll have a look at that in just a moment. Once we're holding 2 star systems, we're going to try and consolidate, build a massive fleet up, and then go after the enemies. So after a relatively short amount of time, I've taken down all of the hostiles in that orbiting that lava world. We sent over the colony frigate here, and then claimed this rather lovely looking world for ourselves. Just look at this. This looks really nice, doesn't it? Although, as visually appealing as it is, it's probably not the best environment to live on. It kind of puts me in mind of Mustafar from Star Wars. Stepping right back out, we've got the entire star system here. That's our original planet, Iduna, whatever we call it. We've got the lava world there. We've now captured the ice world. We've captured the asteroid down on the bottom of the star system, and in a while we'd go for that other asteroid as well. Now if we click on the star, you can see we've got some hyperspace routes linking to other star systems. We've got 2, this one in the middle, which is as yet is unclaimed, or it seems to be unclaimed, at least it's not claimed by the Orange faction. There's a bunch of independent factions here without doubt. And then we've got the enemies over here. This is the ultimate goal. We need to get over that way and completely take those down. The highlighted one, I suspect, is the capital world. Obviously, when we jump into that star system, we'll enter in at the star, and then we'd have to move our way over to this world here, which is currently ranked at 19 in terms of its tech and its build-up. We can't see much there because it's under the fog of war. We haven't got a scout ship directly in that star system, but at least we've got a bit of an idea of what's going on. And yes, they're making good progress as well. So now I've consolidated my place within this star system, it was time to expand, move on to phase 2 and start that massive fleet. Of course, to start with, that means getting on with the research because we need the fleet supply to be much higher. That's completely fine. It's also time to start gathering some more resources. We need to make sure we've got as much metal and crystals as possible. You can see the metal is fairly low there, but once I start getting other mining activities going, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just a case of holding our position here and wait for the resources to collect up and to build up. Got to keep expanding the fleet. Meanwhile, load of frigates there because I do like those in early game. They do bulk up the numbers. But also, we're going to need a number of capital ships, at least once we've got the resources for that. Also wanted to make sure that my colonies were reasonably defended. Now, there was a bit of a plan here because I could either leave some ships here as well to make sure these areas are well defended, but the problem there is that I do want to have the biggest fleet possible when I send them out to the enemy. And that means having every single available ship. But as you can see here, as I'm taking my time, the enemy has been expanding. They've now also consolidated across their entire star system, and I won't be surprised if they're trying to make progress towards that one in the middle, this one right here. Because ultimately, whoever gets there first is likely going to be the one that wins. So yes, whilst I'd set the game speed up very high, that did benefit me, meaning I could build my ships very fast and gather resources very fast. But naturally, it meant that the enemy could also do the same, and who knows at this point what sized fleet they already have. They could have a truly massive fleet, many times what I've already got, and there's just no way to know until you encounter them. Or maybe your scouts could find out, but mine hadn't done that yet. I was just too busy focusing on building up here. So yeah, I had a large enough fleet that I felt I could perhaps stage and then take the second star system over here. That means moving towards the first planet within that system, which looks to be a gas giant, and we got quite a big fleet. Obviously, when you're jumping between star systems, you can only move from star to star, so I'm going to have to do that first. And you know what? There's a very satisfying feeling when you've got a fleet like this one, medium-sized fleet. Some might call it a small fleet, but to me this is medium-sized, and you send them all off along these warp corridors. Nothing quite like it. Very nice feeling, just watching all those ships moving along. Let's try and zoom in on one there. And yeah, I think this is an absolutely fantastic feeling, seeing the fleet that you spent the best part of an hour or two building up, and then sending them out to do the task you built them for. And just so that you know, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. I do have a second fleet that I'm building up back around my homeworlds. These will be joining the fray once they're a suitable size and I feel that they're ready to join. Okay, so of course it wasn't going to be completely easy. There wasn't going to be a case of just walking in and taking whatever planet was available. We would need to do a little bit of fighting because there's always these independent factions and sometimes outright pirates hanging around. And yes, I was going to need to deal with these. But based on how it went the first time round when we attacked these factions around the lava world, I wasn't expecting too much resistance here. My main concern was taking this star system before the other main faction, the orange guys, actually show up. Because sooner or later, they were sure to have the same idea as me and would want to come and seize these worlds for themselves. Unfortunately then, that happened far sooner than I anticipated. The good news is that they weren't here en masse, at least not yet, but this is usually a precursor to, well, a mass invasion. We got a few ships here, easily be able to handle these, but before too long I was fully expecting a massive fleet of these guys to show up. Long story short, that happened very, very quickly. They turned up on bulk, and yeah, as you can see, this was going to be a bit of a problem. Fortunately for me, I was able to kind of face them down. Although I did lose a fair amount of ships doing so, eventually I kind of pushed these guys back, and although they kept insisting on returning, they kept coming back and again, eventually I was able to push them out of this system. Yes, they did unfortunately have a foothold here. It had a few base stations here as well, a little trade port, a few other things. So yeah, they were making much more rapid progress than I was anticipating. Like I say, have the game settings set too fast and they benefit not just you, they benefit the hostiles as well. So the next step was pretty simple. Now that I'd managed to claim this star system, I needed to maintain my hold on it. And yes, that meant the enemies would keep trying to come back. They'd keep sending a few ships here and there, trying to reclaim the system that I'd just taken from them. Now, like I say, the star is the main port of entry. So what I thought I'd do is put my main fleet straight in that star because there's no other way, no other entry point for them to get in here. And And if I could hold that area there, if I could hold that star, I could then quite peacefully build up my resources elsewhere in this star system. I'd already claimed all the rest of the planets here. I'd got the planets of my own in the original star system. That meant multiple star bases, multiple shipyards, and a whole load of resources to boot. So now was the real time to start building the main Zerg force. And that brings me up rather nicely to where we begun. Consolidated in 2 star systems now, managing to keep the enemy out of the second system and holding it for myself, I built the Titan Foundry and used it to construct the command fortress, the ultimate goal that I'd had to build the new ship and see how well it performed. And yes, in my mind this does look very, very nice. Very intimidating, isn't it? Very utilitarian looking, and puts me a little bit in mind of some ships from other games, but also it's got its own unique styling to it as well. And yes, now's the time to really put it into use and start manufacturing the other ships with it. Like I say, we can use corvettes, frigates, as well as cruisers here. Unfortunately, we can't make capital ships, but at this point we don't really need it for that. This is a mobile command platform. It allows us to construct our fleet on the go, and it allows us to construct our fleet inside enemy systems. That's a big change for Sins of the Solar Empire, and it's a very beneficial one as well. Just look at those ships all coming together there. Pretty neat, eh? So yeah, in my opinion, this is actually a very useful ship. I've always felt that the shipyards could be a little bit of a pain, because sometimes, more often than not, you set them up in secure and safe places, and that's good because it keeps them well defended, but it also places them well out of the way. That now changes with the use of this command fortress, because obviously it's entirely mobile. Now in the background of my command fortress here, I've got another large ship under construction. That is the Titan. As soon as that's ready, I think we're good to go, because we'll have a pretty large fleet at that point. And not too long later, the Titan was constructed. Now, bluntly, I'm not too enamoured with the design of the Tex Titan. It's functional, it does the job, it's a very powerful ship, but I think the appearance could be somewhat improved. The other Titans from the other factions do look markedly better. At any rate, that's entirely beside the point, because my Zerg fleet is now ready. I'm staging at the edge of the star system. I'm going to soon move these towards the central star itself, so that they'll be ready to jump in to the enemy territory. And just look at all these ships here. Lovely sight. Formidable presence here. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be more than enough to do the job. And indeed, just a few moments later, it was time to jump and send all the fleets over there into enemy territory. Look at this, lovely sight. This is a massive payoff to all the work we've just done building up this fleet. Taken a little while, but it's always worth it. Very, very satisfying feel. Early on, we saw this with a smaller fleet, but we're now seeing it with a much larger fleet and much larger vessels as well. Puts me in mind of some sci-fi movies, the arrival of the ships there. Already, straight away, you can see they're in conflict. They're under attack from the enemies. We're straight into their territory, and they're likely none too happy about that. And I tell you what, it's always a real pleasure to sit back and watch the fight play out. Now, of course, I was directing the combat here and there, but I was also allowing the ships to do their own thing. The AI is pretty smart here, especially when you've got overwhelming force, although the enemy also had a pretty good fortress, a pretty good setup here, because they were putting up a very, very good defense, taking out quite a few of my ships on the way, but, well, I just made quite a huge number of ships here. Now, of course, I do want to make it clear that this isn't the only way to play Sins of a Solar Empire 2. If you're so inclined, you can go far more tactical. In fact, if you have a higher difficulty setting, it's very unlikely you'll be able to do this that easily. If you just want to go over and completely Zerg, you're likely going to face a number of problems, because the enemy's got some very good AI, they're quite resistant to you doing this, and on top of that, it's very likely that you're the one who's going to get attacked first if you spend too much time simply standing back and building up all your forces. So yeah, despite the fact that I've really gone for overwhelming force here, and it has apparently paid off, that's not always going to be the case, and certainly wouldn't be the case if you went for a different customized game setting. Really enjoy the way those missiles are flying out this side of the starbase there. They kind of give the impression of being a very, very defensible structure. But unfortunately, I do have a lot of ships here, and sooner or later my planet destroyers, my siege ships, were going to take down the capital planet. You can see that going on in the background there just a little bit. It's being bombarded. As soon as that planet was taken down, it was going to be game over, and I was going to be the winner here. No need to destroy all the enemy bases and all the enemy ships, just enough firepower to take down that planet and survive in the meantime, and keep all the enemy ships away from my siege fleet. And there we go. Capital victory. I've taken down the enemy planet. So, a massively fun way to play Sins of a Solar Empire 2. Do check out those links in the video description if you want to know out more. Very recommended as always. And thanks again to Stardock for sponsoring this video. Do take care, and I'll catch you next time.